Welcome to the Midweek Halftime Show. It's like a regular halftime show, but we talk about stuff that's actually interesting for once. Your chance to quench that football thirst in between Saturday from Saturday. This is your chance to get some football in. We're going to be talking about two big important questions here, both relating to the SEC this week. So very, very interesting topics. Number one, is Alabama out of the playoffs? Are they done? Are they gone? They lost to Texas A&M. They were a shoo-in. They were basically going in. The SEC was going to get two teams, is what everyone was saying. Now they've lost. Are they out? ESPN thinks so. Are they correct? The second question we're going to be having, is there a scenario here where the SEC, versus getting two teams in, is left out in the cold altogether? It would never have happened. The SEC's always gotten a team into the playoffs. But is there a chance here? Is there a scenario that SEC gets left out altogether? We're going to address both of those questions here. So first off, right off the bat, and again, these videos are always 15 minutes or less, just like a regular halftime show. We're going to get right in here. Alabama out of the playoffs. So they're sitting at number 5, so they didn't drop very far with that loss to Texas A&M. So they're still here in the discussion. They've had some huge wins, and teams have gotten into the playoffs with one bad, not necessarily a great loss on their record. I mean, look at Ohio State, got in with a loss to Virginia Tech. So, and this is a team playing in a conference that's better than the conference Ohio State was playing in. The SEC is the top conference in the nation. I actually have a video actually coming out where I talk about the top conferences. It should be fun. I'll put it in the remarks section. But Alabama, are they out of the playoffs? They play in the toughest conference. They're coming down the end of the season here. Can they go in and beat Georgia? The ESPN Bowl projections that are coming out saying Alabama's out are assuming that Alabama loses to Georgia. If Alabama beats Georgia, they're still in this. They are absolutely in the playoffs if Alabama can go through and beat Georgia. Absolutely in the playoffs. But Alabama and Georgia, that was the big game, and that's just gotten so much bigger with Georgia continuing to look dominant, and Alabama looking like they have some weaknesses here. So what happens if Alabama loses that game, assuming they make the conference championship? What happens if they lose that game to Georgia? Can they still get to the playoffs with a loss to Georgia at the end of the year? The easy question is no, but there is a but we'll cover the easy question here. If OU, Cincinnati, and the Big Ten champion are all undefeated, then Alabama's obviously out. If you're looking at the end of the season, Alabama's got, at that point, 2 losses, and Georgia is sitting there at the end of the season, undefeated, Cincinnati, and then there's 2 other teams that are undefeated. Alabama's not getting in. That I think that should be given, even with how good the SEC schedule is, even with the nods that Alabama gets for their legacy. I think they're definitely on the outside. But that loss to Georgia doesn't have to be a nail in the coffin. They wouldn't control their destiny. A lot of things would have to be up in the air. But this is the craziest season. Who would have thought that Cincinnati would even have a shot of getting into the playoffs? And here they are sitting at number 3 in the nation. So this is the craziest season in college football. Anything could happen. If Alabama loses to Georgia, can they still get into the playoffs? And the answer is yes, but some things would have to happen here first. First off, Cincinnati would have to lose. That Cincinnati would have, if you're going up even a 2-loss SEC team, this year's Cincinnati, I don't think they're going to get the nod over them. Second thing that's going to happen is the Big 12 champion is going to have 1 loss. So far right now, the only 2 undefeated teams are Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. The Big 12 doesn't look especially strong, with their team struggling in the non-conference and also struggling against themselves, not playing that well. Oklahoma, the top champion, is the top team in that conference right now, not playing so well so far this season, with a lot of close wins that could have been losses. I mean, they almost lost to Tulane, almost lost to West Virginia, and then they almost lost to Texas. I mean, it's just been game after game after game. Kansas State was almost a loss, and now they're playing against TCU this week. We'll have to see how that one goes. Oklahoma only has a 15.3% chance of finishing the season undefeated. Oklahoma State has a 0% chance of finishing the season undefeated. The biggest contender here against Oklahoma, against Alabama getting in is Cincinnati, who has a 43.4% chance of finishing the season undefeated. This is all the FPI odd projectors according to ESPN. And the only 2 teams that would really challenge them right here are UCF and SMU, who they should be able to handle. So that Cincinnati losing is not necessarily is not something you can rely on as an Alabama fan. But the Big 12 losing is, and Cincinnati could definitely drop one here. It's happened before in the past where, Boise State lost to Nevada in 2009 when they were set up to potentially go and play the national championship, and they lost. So it has happened to group of 5 teams set up for greatness before. It could happen to Cincinnati. If that happens, what you'd be looking at is Georgia would be in, and then the Big 10, assuming that they have a undefeated team and a one-loss second team in that matchup, assuming that it's a one-loss team coming in, the team that lost to the Big 10 champion, so like an undefeated Michigan State or Michigan or even a one-loss Ohio State at that point. Assuming that the Big 10 has a one-loss champion and an undefeated team, those 2 teams would be in. So the Big 10 has a chance of actually getting 2 teams in. That's shocking, but the Big 10 is playing really well this year. Big 10 would have a chance of getting 2 teams in that scenario. Georgia would be in. I think Alabama would get that last slot. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I really don't think that is going to happen, that scenario, but I also don't think that Alabama is going to lose to Georgia in the national championship. This is an Alabama team that is not out of the hunt. I think they go down end of the year, beat Georgia, and get into the playoffs there. So that is my prediction, my projection here. I do think that Alabama is still going to be in the playoffs end of the year. Just the way that this Alabama team has played so far, this one loss is not going to derail their entire season, and they're going to come back stronger from it going for the rest of the season. But even if they do lose to Georgia, they can still get in, but it's going to take a lot of things. Now that kind of leads us right into the next question. Is there a scenario here? Is there a path that the SEC, versus getting 2 teams into the playoffs, like some people are projecting, don't get any teams in the playoffs? Could that happen? And the answer is yes, and I'm going to kind of lead us through it so far. So, would a two-loss West Conference team get the nod over, say, a one-loss Big 10 team? Or an undefeated team from one of the other conferences, the Cincinnati or Big 12. And that could definitely happen here. The 2-loss SEC champion is very easily attainable because the Western Conference right now only has 2 teams with 1 loss. Alabama and Ole Miss both only have 1 loss. They both have to play each other. They haven't played each other. They've already played each other. Alabama beat Ole Miss. But They have a very difficult schedule the rest of the way, is my main point. There's what I'm trying to say. They have a very difficult schedule the rest of the way, and if both of them lose, every other team in that conference has 2 losses. So you're already guaranteeing at that point that a Western Conference champion would have 2 losses. Alabama only has a 19.6% chance of finishing out the season undefeated, not counting conference championship, and Ole Miss only has a 1.9% chance. 1.9% chance, and they have some very big games on their docket left. 1.9% chance of finishing the season undefeated here for Ole Miss. So the odds are now, these teams have a way of beating these odds, and these odds end up being a lot smaller than they probably should be. But the odds are that the SEC West champion, that's what they're saying, will have 2 losses. If the SEC champion has 2 losses and goes in and beats Georgia, if the 2-loss West Division champion beats Georgia, now Georgia has 1 loss, and the SEC winner has 2 losses. At that point, as the committee, what do you do if Cincinnati is undefeated, if the Big 12 is undefeated, if Iowa is, if the Iowa or Michigan State are undefeated, and the second team in the Big 10 has 1 loss. So you'd have Iowa with 1 loss and an undefeated Michigan State or Michigan team, or a 1-loss Michigan or Michigan State team and an undefeated Iowa. If you're looking at the Big 10 champion being undefeated and their secondary champion, and that top of the conference is really strong this year, their secondary champion only having 1 loss, you're now looking at the argument the SEC was making, saying, hey, our 1-loss champion should be in the playoffs. Well, now the Big 10 or our 1-loss backup guy, if you got an undefeated SEC and a 1-loss SEC team, we should be 2 teams in the playoffs. Well, now the Big 10 is in the realms of making that argument. If you're looking at an undefeated Cincinnati, undefeated Big 12, undefeated Big 10, and a 1-loss Big 10 in that scenario, I think there is a very, very, very good chance that the SEC gets left out. Now, Georgia, the playoff committee is not beholding to take the SEC champion. They could take Georgia as the team that lost, and I think it would depend on who they lost to, but they could take the SEC East winner and the Big Ten, the SEC runner-up with one loss Georgia, and put them in at number 4 very easily. I think it'd be contentious. I think there'd be a lot of debate, a lot of hurt feelings up in the Midwest one way or the other, but it could happen. But there is definitely, I think, in that case, it'd be a 50-50 toss-up. And there is a definite scenario here where the SEC gets completely left out of the playoffs. Now, again, just like I said with Alabama, I think SEC will still get 2 teams in because I think Alabama will beat Georgia. That one-loss Georgia will get the nod. I think the Big 12 will have lost a game by that point, so I think that it'll probably be 2 SEC teams, Cincinnati, and then someone representing from the Big 10. Because I think there's going to be some more cannibalization on that Big 10. What's the division with Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State? I think it's the East Division. Anyhow, there's going to be more cannibalization in that division itself as well. But the scenario is definitely here for both Alabama and the SEC in general to be left out of the playoffs. Let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to hear this. This is a great discussion, I think. Something that a lot of people would never have thought out coming into the season, and still, as the season was going on, wouldn't have thought about. But now, in the craziest college football season that I've watched in a very long time, now becomes a routine topic for discussion. That really shows us what a blessing it is to have college football back and to have so much just insanity going on in a year, really 2 years, that have just been so insane. It's great to have college football to be insane about. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like this content. It's not all Boise State. I do regular college football stuff as well. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you for watching this video. And as always, go Big Blue!